Hi, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a page that is all about keeping warm during these cold winter days. And it's going to be super fun and should come together pretty quick and easy. So let's check out my workspace and get started. All right, so here's my workspace for this, which is number 4 in our in my 12 Days of Christmas Layouts series for you. This is again going to be just a one-page layout, but you could easily turn this into a 2-page layout if you wanted to, and just make this border twice and do everything that you do on here, just mirror it on the other side. So super fast to do 1 page, but if you need to do 2 pages, it's just as easy to cut twice as much of everything and you'll be fine. And this is a design by Krislyn Mattei, and she's always a great one for creating beautiful layouts that are very easy to assemble. So I just wanted to point out, and I am changing the paper up on this just to give you a variety and more ideas of how to use this. There's been lots of people asking about how the circles are made and whether they're using the CCS system, the custom cutting system, or something else. These are actually made using our circle punch, and so, oh, excuse me, pardon me. Super easy and not humongous, so you can actually use a number of scraps to create these cute little hats that are here on the side. So keep that in mind, and we're going to take a look at some of my Christmas scraps, and we're going to create a cute 1-page layout. Now I have some white cardstock. I have a 12 by 12 of white cardstock, of navy cardstock also out. These base pages, or these larger sheets that I have here that are designer, are from the Joy to the World collection. I have the one with the white poinsettias, and I have this one that's more of a kind of a greenish blue teal kind of light color, that's a part of this print that has these dotted wavy lines. So those are going to be part of our base that we're going to use. And then I have pulled a bunch of scraps that are actually from Seasonal Sightings that also coordinate. This one is the exception. This scrap is from Joy to the World, but the rest of these are from Seasonal Sightings, and they match the same reds and greens that are in Joy to the World. So we're going to use those to make our hats with. I also pulled some laser borders from Seasonal Sightings that we can use on our hats, and I pulled 2 mats. These mats, I believe, are from Seasonal Sightings as well, and we're going to use those along with our hats as well, or at least one of them. I have to decide which one, and I'm leaning towards the Snowflakes, but I haven't totally decided, so that's why they're both still out here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just collect up my scraps and set them to the side. We'll get to them in just a second. And my mats as well, they're going to go over here. Adhesive's going to go over here like it normally does. And I'm going to start by gutting a piece of paper. So we're going to gut the white cardstock that we have here. And if you're not familiar with that term, let me just show you what I mean. We just want the outer edge of this white cardstock. Okay, so we don't need the center. Well, we will need the center, but right now we want the outer edge. So I'm going to cut a 1-inch frame to go around the outer edge of my paper. And if you are building this right on your page, then you don't have to worry about a base, because I'm going to adhere a designer paper onto this frame. I'm not going to worry about a base either for this particular page. Okay, so I want a 1-inch frame. I want my blade to stop at 1 inch, so I'm going to attach my clip here at the 0 mark, and my blade housing will stop at 1 inch. Then I'm going to take another clip and I'm going to attach it here at the 12-inch mark, and then my blade housing will stop at 11 inches here. So that's going to help me make a very quick, very easy frame and take the center out of this cardstock so that I can use the cardstock elsewhere. And we will need it on this layout, so it's a good step to take. So I'm just going to rotate my paper the same direction. It doesn't matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, as long as you continue to rotate it the same direction all the way around, lining it up at the 1-inch mark over here and continuing to cut as I rotate my paper. My clips are there to ensure that I don't go too far with my cut. And now I have a nice frame for my layout, okay? I also have this piece of paper. This piece of paper, I was going to use this on the layout, but then I read a little bit more of Krislyn's instructions and discovered she actually used a matte card for what I thought we were going to use white cardstock for. So we're just going to set that aside and use it on something else down the road, okay? I'm going to use this paper right here as my base paper, this base paper right here that has the pine tree pieces on it. But this piece of paper is framed, which means that I have, I think it's a 1/2 inch. So this is 11.5. Let me just double check. Nope, it's 11 3/4. Okay, so we have just a 1/4 inch we need to take off of the edge of this paper. So I'm going to come up here, take my clips off so I can make a full cut, and I'm going to take a 1/4 inch off of each side of this so that I have a 11 3/4 square. Okay. So here's my 11 3/4 square that will go on top of that white cardstock. Just perfect, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to take this paper right here and I'm going to cut a 4.5 inch piece of this. I want my wavy lines to go horizontal on my page though, so I'm going to turn it so that they are vertical as I cut my 4.5 inch piece, and that way I'll be able to ensure that they are going horizontal when I put them on my paper, just like that. Okay, so that's all we need this sheet for, so I'm going to set that aside. These are not needed either, so those get set aside. Now I'm going to take my blue cardstock, and this is going to get cut into a 2.5 inch strip. So we're going to measure this at 2.5 inches on that 2.5 inch grid line. And that piece is going to go down this way. Now here's where we have to make a decision. I'm going to cut a matte card. This is the larger matte card that we have in our matte pack. It is 6.5 by 4.5 inches, and I need to make 5 2 1/8 inch. That's that right? Yep, 2 1/8 inch squares. So I'm going to measure this at 2 1/8. So not the first tick mark beyond the 2, but the second tick mark beyond the 2. Okay, so 2 1/8. I'm going to measure this again at 2 1/8, just like that. Okay. Then I'm going to stack those, and I'm going to cut again at 2 1/8, just just like that. And again at 2 1/8. Okay, now I need 5 of them, so one of these is going to be, oh, I beg your pardon, one of these we don't need, so I'm going to just set it aside before I trim it to 2 1/8 because it is going to be just a little bit long. Just barely long, so we just trim that little tiny bit off. Okay, and now we've got our 4 pieces for that, and we'll worry about our caps in just a minute. Okay, so you can set your trimmer aside. Let's go ahead and assemble our page as far as we've got it, and then we'll proceed from there. Okay, so I'm going to put adhesive on the back of, isn't this super pretty? I loved the poinsettia paper on the back of this. So vibrantly red. You can tell from my shirt I like red, so I get excited at Christmas for all the red that we get to see all around. All right, so we're going to place this, and this design doesn't necessarily have a right side or a wrong side as far as directionality goes, but you might have a direction that you like better than another, so just make sure that you have it going the direction that makes you happy, and then center it on our frame that we made. And then that is our base page. We're going to go ahead and put our 4.5 inch piece all the way across the center, and I just added I got a little wild with my adhesive, so bear with me a second. There we go. If you're not sure where the center is, use your grid marks on your mat. Hopefully you are using a mat. I use a mat to protect my table as well as to give me extra assistance when I'm trying to line things up. So I can see that my center of my mat is this line right here, and that helps me to know that centering a piece of paper on my page is going to be about 1/4 inch beyond the 2 inch mark, because this is a 4.5 inch piece, right? So that helps me get that on straight. Done. Okay, now we're going to take this piece, the navy piece, put some adhesive down either side of this one. This one's going to go, I'm taking a look at her example. This looks like it's roughly 3/4 inch from the edge of our layout. So that's where I'm going to put it. And then each of these pieces right here is going to go equally distant along this strip. So I'm turning it just so that I can get a better idea where they'll all fit. And when you have 5, like we have 5, that means that one's going to go directly in the middle, which actually is very helpful because we can once again line our page up on our grid and see exactly where the center of our paper is, and then be able to center our square. Bless you. All right, so there's our center square. Now, if you don't have something that you can find the center easily, like a grid that you are working on, that's okay. You don't have to work on a grid. It's just, I find it works so much easier for me. So, so you may find it works easier for you too. But if you don't have one, you can use a zero centering ruler and it can help you find the center. Or you can just lay your pieces out and find a good, even amount of space in between them and try to keep the space at the end and the space in between each one the same distance. If you're going to do that, I would start by trying to just eyeball the center one, get the center one in place, then do both of them ones on the ends like I've done, and then place the ones that go in between. It's much easier to find to have an even amount, and if you don't have an even amount on the very ends, it's less noticeable. So, not a big deal, right? All right. So there are our snowflake mat pieces. Now we need to make some hats. So let's go ahead and get our circle punch. We are going to need 4 hats from our various scrap pieces that we've pulled out here. And I'm not going to use that mat, so I'm going to just set that aside over there. And I'm going to set these aside over here as well, because I don't think I'm going to use those. I think I'm going to use, I love this poinsettia. I think I'm going to use that. I think I might use this as a fringe piece. So I think we'll use these 4 as our hats. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to flip my punch over because I am more comfortable looking at my punch and making sure that I'm using my paper in a good way. See how I can get it really close to the edge that way? When you can't tell where the punch starts or stops, it's harder to do that. Okay, so there's a green, we've got a red stripe, there's another red stripe. Here, let me make it over here. And then our poinsettia. Or we could use, we might need to use this side, although I don't know if that green matches as well. I don't know, I like the poinsettias. That's because of my red fetish that I have. Not really a fetish, but you know. It's because I like red. My husband likes red. That was actually a line when we first met. He liked red. He says it wasn't a line, but it was totally a line. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these circles and we're going to cut them down so that they are 1 3/4 inch tall. So I'm going to grab my trimmer again and I'm going to kind of decide which part of them I like the best, and going to find 1 and, did I say 1 3/4? I meant 1 3/8. So 1 3/8 inches. And because I'm dealing with a stripe, I'm going to be really careful to try to make sure that my stripe is straight. Try to make it straight. Just try to make it straight, Kimberly Ann. Okay. I think that's fairly close. So I'm just going to cut off just that much so that I have 1 3/8 of my hat showing. Okay, I'm going to do that with all 4 of these. And 1 3/8. 1 3/8 is not a measurement we get very often. There's that. I'm gonna cut this so that my poinsettia is a little bit off center. One 3/8. It's really forcing me to have to look at my measurements. All right, so there are my 4 hats. Now I need some bands that are roughly a 1/2 inch wide, and they're going to go on the base of my hats. So my hat bases are 1 3/4 inch. So I'm going to make my bands that I have 1 3/4 of an inch. And this one I'm going to save and do last, and this one also, because I want to make sure that that works. Okay, so let me see if this one, if I could use this one. I think this would be a cute band to put on my hat. It needs to be, what did we say? It needs to be a 1/2 inch wide. So here's a 1/2 inch. Let's see if it's going to be wide enough. Oh, I don't want my birds to be cut off. So let's trim it down by about 3/8 of an inch. Let's go here. This is just a scrap that I happen to have, so, but let's see. There's my 1/2 inch, and now I need it to be, what did we say? 1 3/4 of an inch, roughly. So right there would be, actually would be center. If you're just going to cut these 1/2 inch pieces so that they are roughly 1 3/4 of an inch, so that they can be your cute little hat bands on your hats, like that. 1 3/4 of an inch by a 1/2 an inch. That's not very much. So 1/2 an inch. I'm trying to cut this so that the fun part of the pattern is seeable, and a 1/2 an inch is really not much to work with. So I don't mean to sound like I'm complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to be careful about how I cut these. I think that would be cute. Maybe on that one, maybe on this one. Something like that. All right. Now these other two, I want to go ahead and just grab my precision cut scissors. And so I'm going to measure 1 3/4 inch. Let's see, we're going to start right about there. 1 3/4 inch is going to be right about there. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of continue with the kind of loopy fluffiness, I guess you could say. of this. See how it's kind of not, it's definitely not straight. It's definitely wider than 1/4 of an inch too, so we may not be able to use this one, but I'm hoping that it will work. I may have to cut it down a little bit more, because that might be too wide. What do you think? Is that too wide? Yeah, that's too wide. We need to kind of cut that down. So let's see. I'm just kind of making that up as I go so that it is not a straight line. And we'll put that across here. I need to trim that end just a little bit more. Maybe something like about there. Cool. Okay, and this one is a little bit closer. I think I'm just going to do three snowflakes worth. And we'll kind of make that arch the other direction, like that. Okay, all right, so now we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and adhere those on. To the base. So I'm just sort of centering it at the base, so the straighter edge goes right across the straight edge of my circle. And for the ones that I cut that were not straight, they hang over just a tad. So not very much, just a tiny bit. Oops, that one I was off just a little. I don't want it to be off. I want this corner up here to be right at the edge of the circle, and the flat end, or the flat side, to be right at the flat side of my hat. And this one cut off just a little ways. There. All right, now we're going to decide which ones are going to go where. So I think I don't know what I think. So she's using this square as a journal box, which totally works and is good. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll put that red one up there on top, this reddish one down here on the bottom, and then we'll have this green one a little bit more in the middle, just like that. What do we think? I think that'll work. All right, now we need just a couple of small embellishments to go on here. So let's see what I have. Let's see what I have left with Seasonal Sightings that we might be able to use. And if we don't have something appropriate there, then we could use something from Joy to the World. But I think I like this. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It'll bring more green to this upper area. And I can add cardinals, maybe. All right, so I'm going to, rather than doing cardinals up here, I'm going to cover that with another sticker and say it's the most wonderful time of the year when angels are near, and leave it at that. Okay, so then we can use some stars to pull the gold that's in our base sheet into our embellishments. Just like that. Let me get foam square, or 2 or 3 or half a dozen. And we can add that in here, or we can add that in another place on our so you can use one of the 4.5 by 6.5 inch mats that matches all the green that we're using in here, or you could cut a piece of navy blue cardstock to match the navy blue cardstock that we've got over there. Either one would be just fine. You can use a mat card for a journal box over here, so you can journal about the photos that you're going to put on the page. Or you can use this as a photo. So you could use a mat for the bottom and put a 4x4 picture on the top. Krislyn recommends that we use 3.5 by 5.5 inch photos. So you would put one up here, one down here, and then the one that goes in the middle is obviously going to be a little bit more you're going to have to be a little more selective on the photo because you're not going to see the whole thing. So it just depends on how you want to arrange your photos. If you want, you could use a smaller mat over here on this side so that you can see more of that photo that you have in the middle here. But this is the way that she has her photos laid out. And she actually has a lot more space over here, so this is moved in quite a bit more like that. And then she's got extra embellishing here and some other embellishing down here. But it really, where the embellishments go depends on your photos that you use. And so you would just need to kind of keep that in mind and maybe not adhere them until you've got your pictures ready to go on these. I'm going to go ahead and adhere my hats down so that they are done. Oh, you know what? I was looking at this and noticing that I forgot a significant item on our hats. We need the dot that goes on the top. So give me just a second here and we will figure out the dot that goes on the top. Because that's important to have that circle dot. Okay, let me see how she made that dot that goes on the top. Ah, okay. So she used the owl Build-A-Punch to make the circle that goes on the top of the hats. So let me grab that real quick. This circle right here is the one that she used, excuse me, to go on the top there. So let me grab, I was gonna see about grabbing some of the same papers that we used for the hats to use for the pom-poms. Okay, so we need a circle from that guy. And a circle from this guy. One from our striped friend here. Oh, hello, where did that go? That ended up on the floor, so let's punch that again, shall we? Be more careful not to drop it. And then where's the one that we're missing? Ah, the poinsettia paper. Here it is. All right, so we'll get those baubles put on, and then our hats will be good to go. So she's got them just kind of sinking into the hat just a little bit. And of course you don't have to make the pom-pom that goes on the top the same as the hat if you don't want to. You could make it an accent color if you wanted. I'm making all of mine match. All right, now that looks better. Okay, let me know what you think about this and whether you would rather use the new Nordic Winter paper pack, which was used in this sample, or maybe one of your Christmas packs, and which one you think it would look best. And because I'm curious to know what you would like to use. And make sure you comment and let me know what you think, all right? Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next time for our 5th layout. We're moving right along in the 12 days of layouts. So you take care. Thanks for joining me, and have a great, have many more creative moments. Take